Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Guardian and watched three massive ships appear at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each alien vessel was over a kilometer long and covered in strange metal that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. She had been waiting for this moment her entire career, but never imagined the ships would be so enormous. The largest human warship was barely a tenth the size of the smallest alien craft approaching them. Kate turned to her communications officer and gave a simple nod. Within minutes, radio signals filled the space between Earth and the alien fleet. The response came faster than expected, and in perfect English, which surprised everyone on the bridge. The alien voice was deep and carried in tone of someone speaking to a small child. Captain Jake Sullivan had been chosen to lead the first meeting with these visitors from another world. He was a calm man in his 40s who had spent years studying alien cultures that Earth scientists had detected through deep space telescopes. Jake knew 17 different alien languages and had trained for this exact situation since he was 20 years old. As he prepared to board the shuttle that would take him to the alien flagship, he reminded himself to stay calm and observe everything. Dr. Lisa Chen joined Jake on the shuttle, along with Colonel Sam Parker. Lisa was Earth's best expert on alien communication and had spent the last 10 years preparing for first contact. Sam was there to provide military advice and to protect the diplomatic team if something went wrong. All three humans wore their best dress uniforms and carried small recording devices hidden in their clothing. Earth's leaders wanted every word of this meeting preserved for history. The shuttle docked with the alien flagship, and Jake felt his heart beating faster as the airlock opened. The corridor beyond was lit with soft blue light, and the walls seemed to be made of some kind of living metal. Tall figures waited for them at the end of the hallway. The aliens were humanoid but stood nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin and large black eyes. Their leader wore elaborate robes covered in symbols that seemed to move when Jake looked directly at them. Fleet Commander. Vextar introduced himself with a bow that seemed more like a gesture of superiority than respect. His voice echoed in the large meeting chamber as he explained that he represented the Zephyrian Alliance. This was a group of 47 different species that controlled most of the galaxy. Vextar spoke as if he was doing humanity a great favor by even acknowledging their existence. Jake listened carefully as Vextar described how the Alliance worked. Strong species led while weaker ones provided resources and labor. New species were always grateful to be included in such an advanced civilization. The alien commander made it clear that humanity would be starting at the bottom of the system and would need to prove themselves worthy of better treatment over many generations. Dr. Chen took notes on everything while trying to hide her growing anger at the aliens' attitude. They spoke about humans the way a farmer might discuss cattle. Sam Parker remained silent, but his trained eye cataloged every detail of the alien ship's construction and the weapons their guards carried. The technology was impressive but not impossible to understand. Everything he saw would be reported back to Earth's military leaders. Vextar showed them to quarters where they would stay during the negotiations. The rooms were comfortable, but Jake noticed they could be locked from the outside. The alien explained this was for their protection, but his tone suggested it was really to keep them from wandering around the ship. Jake thanked him politely while making mental notes about everything he observed. That evening, the three humans met in Jake's quarters to discuss what they had learned. Lisa whispered that the aliens clearly considered humanity to be primitive and weak. Sam added that their technology was advanced, but showed signs of being very old. Many of the ship's systems seemed to be maintained rather than newly built. This suggested the Zephyrian Alliance might not be as strong as they appeared. Jake activated a small device that would prevent their conversation from being overheard and contacted Earth using an encrypted channel. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the tiny screen, and she listened carefully to their initial report. She confirmed that similar meetings were taking place with other Zephyrian ships throughout the solar system. All of the alien representatives were showing the same arrogant attitude toward humanity. Back on Earth, President Frank Martinez called an emergency meeting of the Global Security Council. Leaders from every nation gathered in the hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. They reviewed the initial reports from all contact teams and discussed their options. The aliens clearly expected humanity to simply accept whatever terms they offered. This assumption would prove to be their first major mistake. Dr. Helen Rodriguez activated communication links to secret facilities around the world and throughout the solar system. For over a century, humanity had been preparing for this moment. The aliens saw a young species that had barely learned to leave their home planet. They had no idea they were looking at the result of 200 years of careful planning and preparation for exactly this type of encounter. The second day of negotiations began in a larger chamber, filled with holographic displays showing star maps and fleet positions. Commander Vextar had invited additional Zephyrian officers to observe the proceedings. Jake Sullivan noticed that each alien wore different colored robes indicating their rank and specialization. The military officers stood behind the diplomats with their hands, resting on weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Vextar activated a three-dimensional map of Earth's solar system and began pointing to various locations with a device that projected red markers. He explained that the Alliance had completed a detailed survey of human space during their approach. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had been cataloged and evaluated for its strategic and economic value. The casual way he discussed carving up humanity's home system made Dr. Chen's hands clench into fists. The first demand involved exclusive mining rights to Earth's moon. Vextar explained that the Alliance needed the rare minerals found there to maintain their fleet. Humanity would be allowed to keep a small research station, but all industrial operations would be transferred to Zephyrian control. The profits from this mining would help pay for the protection services the Alliance would provide to Earth. Jake maintained his diplomatic composure while internally calculating the true cost of losing lunar mining operations. The moon provided essential materials for Earth's growing space industry and supported over 50,000 jobs. Colonel Parker recognized the strategic implications immediately, since the lunar bases also served as early warning stations for threats approaching from deep space. The second demand was even worse. Vextar highlighted several major cities on Earth, including New York, London, Tokyo, and Mumbai. These population centers would need to be relocated to make room for Zephyrian administrative complexes. The aliens required direct oversight of human activities, and these facilities would house the governors who would manage Earth's integration into the Alliance. Dr. Chen could no longer remain silent and asked where the displaced populations would be relocated. Vextar waved dismissively and explained that humans were quite adaptable and would find suitable locations elsewhere. The tone of his response made it clear that the welfare of displaced humans was not a concern. This casual attitude toward human suffering revealed the true nature of the Alliance's offer. The third and most disturbing demand involved what Vextar called technological education. 10% of Earth's population between the ages of 18 and 30 would be selected for advanced training in Alliance facilities. These young humans would learn to operate and maintain alien technology while contributing their labor to important Alliance projects throughout the galaxy. Jake asked pointed questions about this education program while trying to hide his growing horror. The selected humans would be gone for minimum periods of 20 years with no guarantee of return to Earth. They would be housed in Alliance facilities and assigned to work wherever their skills were needed most. Vextar described this as a generous opportunity for humanity to contribute to galactic civilization. Colonel Parker realized this was nothing more than sophisticated slavery dressed up in diplomatic language. The Alliance had clearly used this same pattern with other species throughout the galaxy. Young populations were removed to prevent resistance while their homeworlds were strip-mined for resources. The older generation would be left to manage the remaining population under alien supervision. Vextar seemed pleased with himself as he outlined the timeline for implementing these changes. Earth would have 30 days to begin compliance with all Alliance requirements. Resistance would be met with appropriate measures to ensure cooperation. He gestured toward the holographic display showing Zephyrian battle fleets positioned throughout human space as a reminder of the consequences of defiance. Jake requested a recess to consult with Earth's leadership about these substantial requirements. Vextar granted this with obvious impatience, explaining that other species had accepted similar terms without delay. The Alliance had schedules to maintain and could not waste time on endless discussions. Humanity would need to decide quickly whether they preferred cooperation or the alternative. Back in their quarters, the three humans established another secure connection to Earth. President Martinez listened grimly as Jake outlined the Alliance demands. The President confirmed that identical requirements had been presented to negotiating teams throughout the solar system. Every Zephyrian commander was following the same script and showing the same contempt for human concerns. Dr. Rodriguez appeared on the secure channel to inform them that Protocol 7 had been fully activated. Deep space monitoring stations were tracking every alien vessel, while hidden sensors gathered detailed information about their technology and capabilities. The intelligence gathered over the past 2 days would prove invaluable for what was about to happen. Admiral Morrison reported that Earth's fleet was ready and waiting for the signal to move. Hidden installations throughout the solar system had been placed on high alert. The alien assumption that humanity was helpless and unprepared was about to be tested in the most dramatic way possible. Everything now depended on maintaining the deception for just a little longer. The final diplomatic session began with Vextar showing clear signs of impatience. He had granted humanity 12 hours to consider the alliance terms, and seemed annoyed that they had requested the full time allowed. Other species typically accepted immediately or within a few hours at most. The delay suggested either confusion or defiance, and both possibilities irritated the Zephyrian. Commander Captain Sullivan entered the meeting chamber with Dr. Chen and Colonel Parker flanking him on either side. All 3 humans appeared calm and composed despite the massive pressure they were under. Jake had spent the night reviewing every piece of intelligence Earth had gathered about Zephyrian psychology and tactics. He knew exactly what needed to happen, but the timing had to be perfect. Vextar wasted no time asking for humanity's decision regarding the alliance terms. His body language suggested he expected immediate acceptance, followed by discussions about implementation timelines. The alien commander had conducted these negotiations dozens of times with other species, and the pattern was always the same. Faced with overwhelming force, weak civilizations quickly agreed to any terms offered. Jake looked directly at Vextar and delivered a response that no one in the chamber expected. Earth's leadership had carefully considered the alliance proposal and found several areas that required clarification and modification. The human diplomatic team would need additional time to work out acceptable compromises that served both species' interests. The request was delivered in perfectly polite diplomatic language. The silence that followed Jake's statement stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Vextar stared at the humans with an expression of complete disbelief. No species had ever requested modifications to alliance terms. The offers presented were final and non-negotiable. Acceptance was the only option available to civilizations that wanted to avoid complete destruction. Vextar's voice carried a dangerous edge when he explained that the alliance did not negotiate with primitive species. Humanity would accept the terms as presented or face the consequences of defying galactic law. The Zephyrian military had pacified hundreds of worlds, and Earth would not be the first to successfully resist alliance authority. Cooperation was not optional for species that lacked the power to enforce their own will. Dr. Chen noticed the other Zephyrian officers moving their hands closer to their weapons as the tension in the room increased. Colonel Parker's military training allowed him to assess the tactical situation while maintaining his diplomatic facade. The aliens were preparing for the possibility of violence, but they still believed they held all the advantages in any potential conflict. Jake maintained his calm diplomatic tone while requesting specific details about the protection services mentioned in the alliance offer. If Earth was going to provide resources and population to support alliance operations, then humanity deserved to understand exactly what they would receive in return. The question was reasonable, but Vextar clearly considered it another sign of unacceptable defiance. Vextar activated a communication device and spoke rapidly in the Zephyrian language to someone on his flagship. Dr. Chen understood enough of the alien tongue to realize he was ordering a demonstration of Alliance firepower. 3 destroyer-class vessels would move into Earth orbit and target what appeared to be a military installation in the Pacific Ocean. The destruction would show humanity what resistance would cost. Then Jake watched the holographic display as 3 sleek alien warships moved toward Earth while charging their primary weapons. Each destroyer was 5 times larger than the biggest human warship and carried enough firepower to level a major city. Vextar explained that this was just a small sample of the Alliance's military capabilities. Continued resistance would result in increasingly severe consequences for the human population. The moment had finally arrived, and Jake felt strangely calm as he stood up from the negotiating table. 200 years of preparation were about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. He looked directly at Vextar and spoke in a voice that carried absolute confidence. There seemed to be a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of this negotiation, and it was time to correct that error. Jake activated a small communication device that had been hidden in his uniform and spoke a single phrase that would change everything. Admiral Morrison received the message on Earth and immediately began implementing the plan that had been waiting for this exact moment. Hidden installations throughout the solar system came online while disguised weapons platforms revealed their true nature for the first time. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Zephyrian sensor operators monitoring the 3 destroyers approaching Earth. Energy readings were spiking from locations that their initial surveys had identified as empty space or primitive installations. What they had dismissed as a backward planet was suddenly displaying technology signatures that rivaled their own advanced systems. Vextar received urgent reports from his fleet commanders describing impossible sensor readings throughout the human solar system. Installations that should not exist were powering up with energy outputs that defied their understanding of human capabilities. The primitive species they had come to subjugate was revealing technology that should have been beyond their reach for thousands of years. Doctor. Chen smiled as she watched the alien expressions change from arrogance to confusion to the first hints of fear. Colonel Parker remained perfectly still, but his eyes showed satisfaction as decades of careful planning finally began to unfold. The Zephyrian Alliance was about to learn that their assumptions about humanity had been completely and dangerously wrong from the very beginning. The main view screen in the Zephyrian meeting chamber activated without warning and displayed an image that made every alien in the room freeze with shock. General Alex Turner appeared on screen, wearing the uniform of Earth's Planetary Defense Command. Behind him, massive displays showed tactical information that revealed the true scope of humanity's preparations. The primitive planet the Alliance had come to subjugate was actually the center of the most advanced defensive network in known space. Turner began speaking in a calm, professional voice that carried absolute authority. Earth's leadership had monitored every moment of the negotiations and found the Alliance terms completely unacceptable. Humanity rejected all demands for tribute labor and territorial concessions. Furthermore, any attempt to enforce these demands through military action would be met with appropriate defensive measures. Vextar struggled to process what he was seeing as the tactical displays revealed installations throughout the human solar system that should not have existed. The moon was not just a natural satellite but a massive weapons platform disguised to look like a barren rock. Mars hosted shipyards that had been producing advanced vessels for over 50 years. The asteroid belt contained a network of automated defense stations that could coordinate their fire to stop entire battle fleets. Captain Sullivan stood and addressed the stunned Zephyrian commander with the same polite tone he had maintained throughout the negotiations. There had been some confusion about the nature of these discussions, and he wanted to clarify humanity's actual position. Earth was not seeking to join the Alliance as a client species. Instead, they were announcing their presence as an independent power that expected to be treated with appropriate respect. Dr. Chen activated her tablet and began displaying historical records that showed the real timeline of human development. The Alliance surveys had detected radio signals from Earth that seemed to indicate a primitive civilization just learning to use basic technology. Those signals had been deliberately transmitted to create exactly that impression, while humanity's real capabilities remained hidden from galactic observation. The truth was that humanity had been aware of galactic civilization for over 2 centuries. An ancient alien survey ship had crashed in Antarctica in 1823, and its wreckage provided Earth scientists with their first glimpse of advanced technology. Careful study of the vessel's computer systems revealed star maps, trade routes, and detailed information about dozens of species, including the Zephyrian Alliance. Colonel Parker explained that humanity had spent the following decades carefully observing galactic civilization while remaining hidden from detection. Deep space telescopes monitored alien communications and traffic patterns. Automated probes gathered intelligence about technology and military capabilities. By 1900, Earth's leaders understood exactly how the galaxy operated and began preparing for eventual contact. The Industrial Revolution that transformed human civilization during the 19th and 20th centuries had been guided by knowledge gained from the alien wreckage. Steam power, electricity, and nuclear energy were developed decades ahead of their natural timeline. The space program that put humans on the moon was actually the beginning of a massive military construction project that continued for over a century. Turner revealed that Earth's apparent technological backwardness was the result of careful deception. Radio and television broadcasts were designed to make human civilization appear primitive to any alien observers. Meanwhile, the real work of building humanity's defenses continued in secret facilities hidden throughout the solar system. Every major nation contributed resources and personnel to the project. The three Zephyrian destroyers approaching Earth suddenly found themselves surrounded by human warships that had been hiding in the shadow of nearby asteroids. Admiral Morrison's fleet revealed itself as over 40 vessels of completely unknown design decloaked simultaneously. Each human ship was larger and more heavily armed than anything in the current Zephyrian task force. Vextar finally found his voice and demanded to know how humanity had acquired such advanced technology. Jake smiled and explained that the crashed survey ship had not been empty when they found it. The lone surviving crew member had lived long enough to share crucial information about galactic politics and technology in exchange for medical care. That alien had died, knowing that humanity would eventually use the knowledge to protect themselves. Dr. Chen added that subsequent expeditions to other ancient crash sites had provided additional technological insights. Humanity had not stolen or conquered their way to advanced capabilities. They had earned them through 2 centuries of careful study, reverse engineering, and innovative development. The species the Alliance considered primitive had actually been preparing for this encounter longer than most current Alliance members had been. Spacefaring, the holographic displays now showed the full extent of human defensive preparations. Every planet and major moon in the solar system hosted military installations. Hidden shipyards in the outer system had been producing vessels for decades. Automated manufacturing facilities could construct new weapons and defenses faster than any known alien industry. Earth was not just defended, it was a fortress that could resist any force the Alliance could bring against it. Turner concluded his presentation by informing Vextar that humanity was now ready to take its place in galactic civilization as an equal partner rather than a subject species. The days of the Alliance dictating terms to newly contacted civilizations were ending. Earth would defend itself and any other species that chose to resist Alliance domination. The balance of power in the galaxy was about to change forever. The power dynamic in the meeting chamber had completely reversed in the span of minutes. Commander Vextar found himself staring at displays showing human military capabilities that exceeded anything the Alliance had encountered in centuries of expansion. The species he had come to subjugate possessed technology and defensive preparations that rivaled the combined might of the 47 member worlds of the Zephyrian Alliance. Captain Sullivan activated a holographic projector and displayed new tactical information that made the alien officers step backward in alarm. Hidden throughout the solar system were installations that had been disguised as natural features or primitive structures. Weapons platforms masquerading as communication satellites surrounded Earth in multiple defensive layers. The asteroid mining operations were actually automated factories, producing advanced military hardware around the clock. Admiral Morrison appeared on the main screen to provide a detailed briefing about Earth's true military capabilities. Her fleet had been hiding in the outer solar system using stealth technology derived from the ancient alien wreck found in Antarctica. Each human vessel was equipped with weapon systems that incorporated innovations from 2 centuries of careful research and development. The Alliance fleet was now completely surrounded and outgunned. Dr. Rodriguez appeared alongside Morrison to explain the scope of Earth's intelligence network. Human monitoring stations had been tracking Alliance activities throughout this sector of the galaxy for over 50 years. Every fleet movement, diplomatic negotiation, and military operation had been observed and recorded. Earth possessed detailed information about Alliance technology weaknesses and internal political divisions. Jake stood and addressed Vextar with the same diplomatic courtesy the alien had shown humanity during their initial negotiations. It seemed appropriate to present the commander with some revised terms that better reflected the actual balance of power between their civilizations. Earth was prepared to discuss mutual cooperation, between equals but would not tolerate any further threats or demands for tribute. The first human demand involved immediate withdrawal of all Alliance military forces from the solar system. Any vessel that remained after the specified deadline would be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Vextar opened his mouth to object but closed it again. When new sensor readings showed that Earth's planetary defense grid was now fully activated and targeting his flagship. Dr. Chen presented the second requirement, which involved Alliance recognition of Earth as an independent sovereign power with full rights under galactic law. Humanity would not accept client status or any form of tributary relationship. Future interactions between Earth and Alliance worlds would be conducted through proper diplomatic channels between equals. The days of dictating terms to newly contacted species were ending. Colonel Parker outlined the third demand, which addressed the Alliance's treatment of other subjugated species. Earth possessed detailed records of Alliance expansion tactics and the systematic exploitation of weaker civilizations. Humanity expected immediate reforms to these policies and would monitor Alliance compliance through its extensive intelligence network. Continued oppression of client species would result in active human intervention. Vextar finally found his voice and attempted to protest these unprecedented demands. No newly contacted species had ever presumed to dictate terms to the Alliance. The established order of galactic civilization depended on recognizing the natural hierarchy between advanced and primitive cultures. Humanity's unexpected capabilities did not justify completely overturning thousands of years of precedent. Jake smiled and explained that Vextar had misunderstood the situation. Earth was not a newly contacted species seeking accommodation within existing galactic structures. Humanity was announcing its emergence as a major power that intended to reshape those structures according to more equitable principles. The Alliance could adapt to this new reality, or find itself facing an opponent that had been preparing for this conflict for 2 centuries. Admiral Morrison provided a demonstration of human resolve by ordering a precision strike on a small asteroid near the Alliance fleet. The target was completely vaporized by weapons that fired from installations the Zephyrians had not even detected. The display showed that Earth possessed both the capability and willingness to back up its demands with overwhelming force if necessary. The Zephyrian officers began receiving urgent communications from their ships throughout the solar system. Human vessels were appearing from concealment everywhere, and each one carried weapon signatures that exceeded anything in the Alliance arsenal. The careful intelligence gathering of the past 2 centuries had allowed Earth to design countermeasures. For every known alien technology, Vextar realized that resistance would be futile and potentially catastrophic for his entire fleet. The beings he had dismissed as primitive possessed military capabilities that could threaten the Alliance's core worlds. Continued hostilities would only result in the destruction of his forces, while proving humanity's power to the entire galaxy. The smart choice was to accept the new reality and adapt to it. The Zephyrian commander formally accepted Earth's terms and agreed to immediate withdrawal from human space. He would carry word back to the Alliance leadership about humanity's true capabilities and their demands for galactic reform. Jake thanked him for his cooperation and expressed hope that future relations between their peoples would be more productive and mutually beneficial. As the Alliance fleet prepared to depart, Vextar asked Sullivan why humanity had chosen to reveal their strength in this manner. They could have remained hidden and avoided contact entirely. Jake's response would be remembered throughout the galaxy for generations. Humanity preferred to be underestimated because it made the eventual surprise so much more effective. The age of human influence in galactic affairs had begun, and nothing would ever be the same.